woke is this tiny minority of fringe left-wing activists, and most of the country is actually united.
So then why is he talking about it so often?
Because they are. I do agree that there's a real issue with wokeness. I don't know if
it's overblown. I think it's way overblown, and it suits his purpose for it.
That could be, but I see it as more of a. The reason I would lean one way versus another, more towards the right than to the left, is that I do think the worst elements of the left are much more ascendant and resonant than the worst elements of the right.
I think they're probably the same. The worst elements of left and right are.
You don't see different. KKK kids television shows and the worst right wing ideas of fascism ascendant in media, academia, culture, but you do see the worst elements of the left ascendant in those areas.
I don't think
the major institutions in the country are lean to the left for the most part.
You would compare like a gay character on a Disney show to a KKK show?
No, I wouldn't do that.
Well, so what are the worst elements of left, like socialism and like Puritanism and cancel and all that?
And just judging everything based on race, judging everything based on equal representation in not under the law, but in like checking off a box. Like these ideas that force people to judge people in this intersectional racial lens as opposed to just as individuals. Like those kinds of ideas, turning people against people, that kind of stuff is embraced much more by the modern sort of widespread left and Democrats in general than the worst elements of the right, which are pretty easily dismissed and aren't embraced by the mainstream. I don't know.
It's changing. I have private conversations with people who say things they wouldn't have said during the BLM marches and stuff. You know, like more critical of that.
But in the institutions, mindset. There was a clip of Vivek on Meet the Press, to go back to Vivek, with Chuck Todd, and Chuck Todd is defending gender affirming care for minors, you know, saying like, don't you think it's the parents' decision to take a 14-year-old or 16-year-old and give them double mastectomies? And that's Chuck Todd defending that on NBC, while Vivek is made to seem like the radical right-winger for saying, no, that should be illegal. Just like getting a tattoo before you're 18 is illegal, and smoking before you're 18 is illegal. That's the common sense thing that I think most people would agree upon. And Chuck Todd is out there saying, I think children should be doing this. To me, that's wild.
At the same time, though, Chuck Todd got fired. He's no longer the host of Meet the Press because the ratings were probably low, and most people don't want to hear that.
Where we are on the pendulum is interesting, but I think in the current moment, you still have most of academia, most of media, most of academia, media, and major institutions, even in corporate America, that have a lot of these diversity, equity, inclusion classes that are racial sensitivity classes that I think are not good for culture and society. They're making people view everything through a hyper-racialized lens. And granted, it's a fringe people of activists who believe that, but those ideas are much more embraced and integrated than the worst ideas of the right.
I just think that fear is like 8 to 12 months old, and like DeSantis is running on fears that are stale already. I think his whole thing's gonna start feeling stale. I don't know. Woke doesn't really affect. It doesn't affect me on a day-to-day basis in a way I could see, and I think most people feel that way.
I don't think that's true. I think it does affect.
How does it affect you on a day-to-day basis?
How does it affect me on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah.
For one thing, I have to be a lot more careful as far as my kids and what they're exposed to in what I thought was safe places for them to consume whatever it is, children's media, because YouTube, Google, those kinds of Disney Plus, like they all are embracing these ideas. You know, so I have to be more careful in monitoring that in a way I didn't think I'd ever have to be.
That's a good answer.
I've been denied jobs because I don't fit the description of a diverse creative. You know, I've tried to pitch for different things, and they said, listen, to be honest, like right now, a lot of the what they're looking for is not what you fit racially or identity-wise. You know, they're looking for more. They're not looking for people who can compose the best music or this or that. It's not based on skills and competence. They're looking for people who fit a certain profile, which I find, well, I'll survive it. It's not the biggest deal, but it's affected me. I'm like, you know,
it's affected me too.
Yeah. So you asked the question. So it's definitely there, and a resonant ideology that's kind of poisoning the way people think about things.
DeSantis, it is.
I'm just saying. And I'm not like, am I complaining about it? Oh, no, but it does concern me.